Hello, my name is Fred McNeil, and thank you for watching QAC TV7. We've started a new show bringing back educators, people who taught in the community, drove buses in the community, principals, vice principals, supervisors, custodians, you name it, and we get to talk to them. How was their experience, what they were doing, and what are they doing now? Had one of my favorite people who I dragged over from a veteran, the poor guy, anytime he gets with me. No, Fred, no. John Wright, thank you very much for being here today, all right?
All right.
Now, John, let's go back to the very beginning.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Am I the first educator you've interviewed? Because I'm always your scapegoat.
No, I've done Linda A. Green.
Okay.
Sharon Robinson.
All right.
And Bernie's coming soon.
All right.
I got them all lined up.
You always seem to try things out on me.
You're like, what was that guy on TV that they always tried the cereal on or something? Hey, give it to him. John, let's go back. Everyone doesn't know you're born and raised Queen Anne's County.
Yeah, I was born in Queen Anne's County. I lived on a farm in the county. Spent my formative years on the farm, and from there I went to Kennard High School, which is of course in Centerville. From there I went to the military, got out of the military and went to college.
Now, did you go to college thinking, I want to be a teacher?
I went to college, yeah. I went to college. I wanted to be an industrial arts teacher. I went to college thinking I wanted to be an industrial arts teacher. And
you always knew that. Good for you. That's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean that was what I wanted to do, and I didn't change my major once I got on campus. It just it was a great life at Maryland State in Princess Anne.
Yeah, you had. Well, let's go back. Let me go back a little bit.
Sure.
What did you have a good role model to be industrial? I mean, where did you pull industrial arts from? I mean, I had a phys ed teacher because I had a bunch of great coaches in phys ed. So what got you on that track?
Well, Mr. Townsend was my industrial arts teacher.
Now, was he at Kennard High School?
He was at Kennard High School. I don't know that I wanted to model myself after Mr. Townsend. Mr. Townsend had a great knack for paddling.
You were allowed to paddle in those days.
He was allowed to paddle those days.
Now, John, there's some people watching this show have no idea. They'll be shocked. What does it mean you could paddle in the schools?
What did it mean to paddle?
I mean, make this.
How can I explain other than you take a board, have the student bend over?
And teachers were allowed to do this.
And oh yeah.
Now, if you touch a student, you're called down to the office,
oh, yeah.
right?
We were. If you made a mistake in Mr. Townsend's classroom, his first response was, "You owe me one."
Oh, one whack.
One whack.
Now, when the
and
tail.
if you try to talk yourself out of that, that's two whacks. So you learn pretty quickly.
Keep quiet.
Not to question it, because at the end of that period, before we left, we lined up, and he said, "John Wright, you owe me 2, or whoever, you owe me 3."
And then whack you.
And he whacked us. I didn't really hurt. It was just degrading.
It was a reminder who the boss was, and you that were a student, right?
Yeah, you don't want to get paddled in front of your classmates, but what are you going to do?
That was the times.
He was 250 pounds.
Oh, you didn't argue with him.
We didn't argue.
Now, what was industrial like? Now, when were you at Kennard? Roughly years? 60s, early 60s?
Yeah, in the early 60s.
What was industrial arts composed of? I mean, wood shop, cars, or what?
Mostly wood shop.
Okay.
Mostly making projects. It was all hands-on,
making things.
Birdhouses.
You remember anything you made? Oh, birdhouses.
Well, we did it. One of the things I liked mostly about my experience there was we got to do a electronics project.
Okay.
And so we made a radio. We put together a radio.
Actually, a plain radio.
Oh yeah, a regular AM radio.
Okay, no people, no FM in those days. All AM, right?
We didn't know about FM. No. All it did was AM. But that was what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do. I wanted to be electronics technician, engineer. But I wanted to, that's what I wanted to do. And so when I got out of the service, I wanted to do something that I could continue doing electronics.
And you did electronics in the service, I remember.
I was a technician, an electronic technician.
Right.
So I enjoyed it. And so when I got to pick a college campus and my major, the only one that at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore where I wanted to go was industrial arts. And in industrial arts, that was electronics courses.
Okay.
So therefore, I could kind of live out my little dream.
What you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, was UMES Maryland State in those days, or was it UMES?
It was Maryland State.
Okay. Great football. Put some football players in the NFL.
We had some great players. Art Shell.
Roger Brown.
Roger Brown. Didn't know Roger Brown.
Okay.
Art Shell.
Hall of Fame.
A couple of years before me. He was the Raiders coach and player. And Gerald Hines.
Did you know them? Did you know any of them?
I knew Gerald Hines.
Oh, you did?
I knew Gerald Hines. Gerald Hines was a big guy.
They were all big men.
But Gerald was, you know what they call him, cutting granite. He was about 6'3".
Oh Lord, solid as a rock.
225 pounds.
Solid as a rock.
We were on the opposite ends. He was when we went online, I was an Alpha, a Phi A guy, and he was the Kappa. Kappa Alpha Psi, but anyway, we went on the same time, and so
you got to know him.
I knew him. Wasn't close friends. I knew him. I knew a few football players, but I was never close friends.
So how was the curriculum? And did you have a good time at Maryland State or UMES? Or?
Maryland State, I'm going to remember fondly. Enjoyed myself there. It was country. We were
it was a low-key school, correct?
Princess Anne was, and we only had approximately at that time, about 800 to 900 kids.
In the whole school?
In the whole school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. A few of them lived off campus, and it was integrated.
Were you and Bill Darling there at the same time? Or
no. Bill was gone.
Okay. Oh, he'd already graduated.
I didn't know Bill Darling until I
got back here.
Got here in the county, but he was only, I was a couple years behind him.
Okay.
So if I hadn't gone in the military, we would probably, if I followed my same.
It would have been the same.
Yeah, we would have.
So you were an older student down there, having military experience, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
If you were like me, you just want to get through college and get the piece of paper.
Yeah. I needed to get on with my life, so I needed to have something to do after the military.
Okay.
So that was my choice.
That's what you wanted. So Maryland State, you go to UMES, Maryland State. Now, you always want to come back home to teach, or did that just get lucky, or what happened?
Well, actually, when I first started teaching, I went to Anne Arundel County.
Oh, you were in Anne Arundel County.
I was in Anne Arundel County, and I taught in Ferndale, Lincoln, Ferndale.
Okay. Now this would have been what, 70s or 60s? 70s.
It was towards the end. It was 70s.
70s. Okay.
Yeah. So I taught there for a few years.
Did you live across the bridge too?
No, I stayed. I lived home. At that point, I lived with my parents.
Oh, you commuted every day to?
I commuted.
What was commuting like in the 70s? No traffic or what?
Mornings were. It was traffic wasn't an issue. The traffic started backing up summertime when spring came along. People going to the beach, and especially I remember Memorial Day traffic. You would be in traffic for a couple hours. Trying to get home.
No big deal.
Except for the holidays, it was no big deal. How
long did you teach in Anne Arundel County?
I'm going to say, Fred, to be exact, about 10 years.
You taught, oh, I didn't, you taught
Yeah.
10 years now.
Yeah,
I didn't know
about 10
that.
years. Yeah.
Now, what brought you back here? Home?
Proximity. I
Okay.
wanted to be able to go to work in about 15 minutes as opposed to 45. I travel 45 minutes each way.
Oh, see, I didn't realize. So you commuted for 10 years. First time I've heard that story.
Yeah.
I've known you for how many years, right?
Yeah. Well,
So did you go to Centerville Middle right away, or where'd you go?
when I came here, I went to Centerville Middle.
Okay.
I knew that because my wife worked there, so I knew that.
Now, you and Fanny were married at the time already, or?
Yeah.
Oh, you were, okay.
Yeah, but I knew that was an open spot in industrial arts because
Okay.
the industrial arts teacher quit like in the middle of the year.
Oh, quit right in the middle of the year.
Yeah, so I came in, met with Mr. Patton, Bill Patton, and I think he offered me that job after we interviewed. He offered me
Right on the spot.
that position right on the spot. Yeah, I mean I was certified.
10-year experience.
I was
You're good.
certified. I had the experience. So
Did you come mid-year, or did you wait till the end of the
no, I think we started in about November.
Oh,
November
you're kidding
that
me. So
year.
you left Anne Arundel County with 10 years and came over here.
Yeah, I
Good for you.
gave him a 2 weeks notice in
Okay.
in Anne Arundel County, and we left in good standing. So,
Of course.
in fact, the principal there, Ron Rufo, we're still
You're
friends.
still friends
So,
after all
yeah,
these years.
we met a couple times at Fishman's Inn for dinner, supper, whatever.
So it worked out. Now, John, you were part of the Mulaski, Ickes, Wright Hall of Fame. For a while in this county, everyone talked about, I remember 3 of my kids had you as teachers. I knew people from Sudlersville, and I taught with Bill in Stevensville. Industrial arts is where kids wanted to go. What was it? What did you do?
Well, each one of us had our own styles. I mean, I hear some stories about Mr. Ickes.
They're all true, John. They're all true.
So we won't sit here and elaborate on those, but I hear some stories about Mr. Ickes that I don't think I could have gotten away with at the time. So, but yeah, I mean, what do? You're sitting, as a kid, you come in and you've been sitting all period, and so after about 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to allow you to get up and work on a project.
Yeah.
In some cases, the guy's been sitting all day long, and they
5
come
periods.
in. They come in and give me my 10 to 15 minutes. So I got
I
to
can move.
lay down the rules.
Now, John, a lot of people don't know because the curriculum's changed so much. What was industrial arts? I mean, what were you teaching? Which we don't teach anymore, I don't think.
Well, industrial arts for me was we started out in 5th grade, and 5th graders we had a specific project, and that was we worked in a plexiglass, and we made a project out of
Now,
that.
can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Now, you know I have to do this if I haven't misplaced it. One of my great possessions. There aren't many things I keep 30 years. My son Ben, who's now 40, so we're talking 30 years ago, I think, made for me, I want everybody to see this keychain with my name on it. It's been on every car I've had for 30 years. So this, I mean, I hear stories from all these kids, keychains, whatever else you made. Yeah. So he actually cut this out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, he I won't say fabricated it, but he of course had to sand it and get it ready to put your name on it and buff it. And so we do that in the 5th grade, 6th grade. We started out with a wood project.
Now, tell me what type of things were you doing with wood?
Well, in the 6th grade, we made a pencil holder.
Oh, a pencil holder.
Yeah, it was a pencil holder.
People could put pencils on their desk.
Yeah, I mean, it was cut out so that you can put 4 or 5 pencils in it and set it on your desk. That was a nice little project for, give it to parents or somebody.
Sure.
That
Gifts.
you
Perfect
thought
gifts.
Yeah, so, but I had all kind of power tools in there, and I didn't allow the sixth graders to use the cutting machine. They could use the sanders and the buffers. But when they got into seventh grade, I allowed them to use some of the cutting machines. They could
and that'd be cutting
jigsaw.
wood.
They could use the jigsaw, and the bandsaw. They could use that. Those are uniplane. I know some of you doesn't mean anything to, but those machines were
serious
the ones
equipment.
The ones that I was most mindful of, and I was hoping that I didn't give them something that they
too dangerous.
Too dangerous. But I always told them, I said, you know, this machine is non-discriminatory. It will cut your finger as well as it will cut a piece of wood. So
be careful.
You need to keep your fingers away and make sure you're cutting the wood. So but I enjoyed them. In eighth grade, I gave them a lot more independence.
What type of project were they making in eighth grade?
Well, they made reflect gun. I made a couple
racks,
kids made gun rack. I had one to make a gun cabinet. Of course, the bird houses, that kind of stools. Yeah, we made. I remember the stools. I'm just we're talking. I'm just kind of reflecting.
Remembering what you did. Yes.
Remembering some of the things they made. You were talking about the keychains. I've had kids come up to me and say, Mr. Wright, I remember making the gun rack you were talking about. I remember making a gun rack.
30 years ago.
Yeah, and they're like, well, yeah, because I won't talk about age, but it's been a minute moon.
They know. They see the color of our hair, John. They know.
They see me with my cane and say, oh, man, Mr. Wright, can I help you now? Yeah. But it was fun. I got to interact with the excuse me. I got to interact with the kids.
Well, you Ickes in Alaska, I mean, the people who knew the community, or those who've been around, you were like legends. I mean, everyone would have Ickes stories, or Alaska stories, or Wright stories, and shop was the cool. Boys or girls, they loved it.
But for the most part, can I say 100%? Absolutely not.
No.
But there were more that liked it that didn't. So we got along. I mean, there were some kids who Mr. Wright wasn't their favorite person, but
it's all right.
Hey, what are you going to do?
They knew you were going to be fair. I mean, you and Alaska and Ickes, I think we're all fair.
I tried to be. You try to be. But when I came to Queen Anne's County, that's where they had co-ed classrooms. When I was in Anne Arundel County,
oh, just boys.
As I was leaving, they started trying to do the co-ed, so I hadn't had the experience of teaching teaching co-ed classrooms.
Oh, we were ahead of Anne Arundel County.
Yeah,
How about that, Queen Anne's?
I didn't. So anyway, Anne Arundel County, I taught maybe 5 girls out of that 10 years. So, and they were just, like I said, they were just starting in Anne Arundel County.
And here was 50% of the class.
And here I came here and I said, wow.
And John, how long were you industrial arts teacher?
Fred, I would say,
yes,
I'm trying to estimate, 20 plus.
Oh, so you taught 20 years. What was the bug for you to become a vice principal? Because you were considered an excellent vice. What did they ask you, or you just retired of teaching? Or
Bill Patton asked me to be an acting principal for a couple of times. He was going to be out of the building, so he said he asked me. Well, I don't know if he asked me. He said, "John, I want you to be the vice principal." So, I tried.
By the way, Bill's watching this.
I was acting principal at the time, but so anyway, from that point, I got to thinking, well, maybe I can do that.
Sure, you can.
And so I needed to get my master's degree, so I just decided that I would work on getting my master's.
Okay.
And so I enrolled in a master's program at Bowie. At Bowie State, and I got my master's degree, and so I got a call from the superintendent, and he called me over and said,
"You're it."
Yeah, who was the superintendent at that point? That wasn't
Schilling?
Yeah,
Skilling.
Skilling, yeah. So I became a vice principal. Yeah.
Now, community-wise, excellent vice principal. Did you enjoy it?
Well, for the most part, yeah.
Okay.
Of course, I mean, you have some issues that for another time we could discuss. But I enjoyed the kids, and
it was a nice change.
And for the most part, the community treated me
they respected your decisions.
Yeah, we had a mutual. Can I say mutual respect?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you got my son and the wolf boy in the bathroom hiding one day. We called. I said, "John, throw the book at him. You're the vice principal."
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the community, so I knew a lot of people. If I didn't know the names, I knew faces.
Sure.
And they knew faces, so they put their trust in me for the most part.
It was a nice fit.
Yeah.
Now, how long, John, were you vice principal at Centerville Middle?
So, as vice principal,
roughly,
Fred, everything is rough.
Sure.
So, I'm going to be 6 years.
Okay, so you had a pretty good run at vice principal. So you went from industrial arts, great reputation. Everyone thought you were a terrific vice principal. What happened? How did you become the next step?
Now that's where the story. I got called to the board office at that time. I was. And Bernie Sadusky called me over and told me.
Superintendent at that point.
Superintendent, and he called me and said, "I would like for you to be a supervisor in the building and maintenance." And he just said, "Well," it gave me a couple of days to think it over.
Yeah.
So I went home and talked to my wife, and
you took it.
That's history.
Good. Now, explain to everyone what the position entailed. I mean, it entailed a heck of a lot of responsibility.
I was in charge of the buildings, the custodians, and in charge of the maintenance department. So my job was to make sure that the buildings were clean.
The water worked, the restrooms were good,
yeah,
the kitchens were
the
good.
water. I mean, just the buildings were. It was operational,
yes.
And so I had to. I was always talking to the principals to make sure they had what they needed. That that my department was in charge of. So. That got to be a little hairy sometimes.
Well, 14 school. How many employees? I mean, how many actual?
92
people.
About 92 all told, when you count the buildings.
And you had night shifts, day shifts, special events?
Night and day shift. For a while, I had to make sure the buildings were maintained, heat, air conditioning, like you said, for special events. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, it was sometimes that was late at night. You get calls because the burglar alarm's going off.
So much for sleeping that night.
3 o'clock in the morning, you got to get up and go to Sudlersville to check and see why the building's alarm is going off.
Were you in charge of making sure the snow was off the sidewalks and the schools and the parking lots?
We had for a while until things changed a little bit. The custodians were the ones that moved the snow off the sidewalks, but then Parks and Rec became part of that deal, and so then they were in charge of moving the snow.
So it made it a little bit easier.
Well, yeah. I mean, we still had to make sure that the entrances were
safe
free of snow,
yeah.
And so that was where the custodians.
Was it a fun job, John, or a difficult job? Looking back on it,
it was more fun in the summertime.
Oh yeah, schools are. You've got 8,000 kids who are writing graffiti on the walls, tearing up bathrooms, this and that, and guess who gets a phone call?
Yeah, I mean, summertime was. I'm joking a little bit, but summertime we were doing the
cleaning
up and making sure that those things that needed to be repaired were repaired, and so it was kind of a
little slower. 2.5
months of where you didn't have to have those kind of headaches. I would say what I liked best was in my positions was when I was administrator at a middle school. I
Oh,
enjoyed that.
you assistant. Oh, that was your favorite. I was going to ask you. It'd be industrial arts, assistant principal, and supervisor. Oh, you like that? Why was that?
It was just my interaction with the kids.
Okay.
You know, they were.
John, I was briefly vice principal at Queen Anne's County High. I thought it was the greatest position. One, you're working with the kids, you're helping the teachers, and you're helping the administration. Everybody and parents. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just, you know, and my bosses, Thad and
Thad Calvinovich.
Thad Calvinovich and McNeil.
Richard McNeil.
Richard McNeil. I mean, you know, they were my bosses.
Did you work under Sue Stein? Was she a principal at all?
I was Sue Stein's boss.
Oh, you were her boss. Oh, okay. Sue, did you hear that? Kenny, did you hear that? Now, so, okay, we go industrial arts, about 20 years, roughly, 6 or 7 assistant principal, which was your favorite, and then the supervisor, and you retired from the supervisor. That was, you and I about the same time got up.
Right.
And isn't that funny? As I look back on my career, I would agree with you. I think assistant principal, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of hall walking and a lot of peeking in places, looking who's doing what.
Correct.
But you could help people, I thought. And I know you're a helper by nature, so it must have been a great job for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was that, those kind of interactions. I also enjoyed the faculty. You know, as a assistant principal, teachers kind of see you in a little different light. They don't see you as principal. They know that I'm their, I use this term, boss.
Right.
So different.
Yes.
It's different.
Yeah.
You know, they see me in a little different light than they see the principal.
You can be a helper.
Easygoing guy.
Mr. Wright, I'm going to be late tomorrow. I have a dental appointment. Could you help me cover?
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Can I leave half an hour ery today? And so, you know,
it's easier to go to Mr. Wright than it was ever who the principal was.
It's easy to go to. He's going most of the time say,
let me work with you.
Go ahead on.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the time. So, yeah, I mean, I couldn't always say that. We got a meeting coming up and I can't let you go. Stuff of that nature.
Yeah,
so, but yeah, I mean, Fred, I'm repeating myself, but
it's all right.
I did enjoy that aspect of, and Centerville Middle was kind of like the Kennard. You know, I knew the.
You knew everybody.
I knew everybody.
You did little league sports. Your kids were in. You knew everybody.
You also got me hooked up to the to the basketball.
Saturday. It went your Saturday, right?
The Saturday, and you and Bernie dropped it on me that when your sons graduated.
Yes, we did. I apologize.
Yeah, right, you did. When you went to the high school, you looked for somebody else. So Bernie's
a great job.
Bernie's my boss. So John, you got it.
Yes.
So you know.
Yeah.
But that was fun too.
Now, John, let me ask you. The boss asked me to ask everybody we've interviewed. One, if you had to do all over again, would you teach and would you go into education?
You mean this time?
Well, if you get a fresh slate, say I make you 22 years old again, you got your college, would you get into education?
Yeah, because everything would be new.
Okay.
I mean,
you were meant to be a teacher.
I wouldn't, you know, at this point now, would I want to get back in education?
Things have changed, maybe.
Absolutely not.
Okay, you're honest. Okay, well, John, let me ask you this. Okay, you go back in education. What advice, and I've asked this to all the teachers, would you give to young teachers to be successful? What made you a great? I mean, John, you're modest, but you had a reputation as a teacher, vice principal. What advice would you give them?
You throw that word "great" around. I'm going to accept it. But, you know, I was just, I call myself an ordinary teacher, but advice would be to, the patience is one.
Okay, be patient.
And what I learned while I was being patient is to listen to what is going on around you.
Okay, listen.
Listen. You know, kids come up and ask you something or, you gotta listen, and I thought I was kind of empathetic with the kids, what was going on. I just kind of felt like I needed to help where I could help. Would that be advice? Yeah, sometimes.
Okay. So help people out, be patient, and listen.
And to listen, help be patient. I at that time when I was teaching, you sometimes you had to help out a kid financially.
Give him a shirt, give him $20, buy him a lunch or whatever.
I don't know if I gave him that much. But
you were a rich vice principal. Come on, you had all that.
I don't know if I gave him about $20.
Well, John, let me ask you the last question I ask all the teachers. What advice would you give the students to be successful in school? You've told teachers be patient and listen and have empathy. How about the students?
Well, I mean, they need to come in there with a purpose, though. I mean, that they've come there for the education. Mm-hmm. But at what age does that light bulb come on? And sometimes it didn't come on in the middle school years. If it did, for us, when I talk about middle school, 8th graders got a little bit more serious as an 8th grader than they did as 6th, 7th graders. Yeah. So, we saw some what we felt was maturity, and we were when those 8th graders left the building,
they were ready for high school.
We were ready for high school for the most part, and we were saying, we were genuinely.
You did your job.
Gonna miss them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always because we missed them because they were out of the building and because they were.
We'd all cheer the last day of school and wave at the bus. John, we got to tell the truth. I was out there leading the cheering.
We were. That was a happy day.
Oh, we smiled. Well, John, look, my time's about up. But first of all, thank you for all your years in education. I didn't know you taught, and I've known you for 40 years. I didn't know you taught in Anne Arundel County at all.
I was there.
You were there.
Yeah.
And thank you for helping with the veterans, for education. I know you're still involved in the community. And thank you for the wonderful years. And thank you for one of the few items I've had in my whole life for 30 years. This keychain is going to stay with me, and I appreciate that.
For my thing to you, Fred, I'm going to stop being your guinea pig, too.
Next time I ask you to do something, no, Fred, I got something.
No, I'm done. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for watching QAC TV 7. My name's Fred McNeil. You've been with John Wright. Our time's up. Thank you for your time. See you next time, and thanks for all the educators out there.